Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sales Technology Podcast. I'm David Dulany, your host, and I'm joined today by Evan Liang, the CEO of LeanData. How you doing today?
Great, fantastic. Excited to be here.
Oh, I've been a big fan of LeanData for many, many years, and it really sits at the intersection of the sales technology universe. And as a matter of fact, you just released an ecosystem map describing how you can plug in all these different components to leverage the system. So tell me, how did you start the company? What got you interested in sales technology?
Absolutely. So I think, like a lot of founder stories, it started with my own pain points. So at my last company, this was over 10 plus years ago, I was running a sales team. We were standardized on Salesforce. We had a cold call operation going on, and we were bringing in marketing automations to really do that lead nurturing thing. And then we ran into a lot of process challenges, data and process challenges. I think the industry term that one of my advisors has used is a complete SS or a complete shisha. Hopefully, I can say that on this podcast. And that's when
Oh
I
yeah.
started realizing that, like, in order to make your sales and marketing teams more effective and efficient, you need to have good data and processes. So that was the light bulb moment for myself to realize that, hey, solving some of these underlying things around data and processes, and this was before, you had Salesforce admins back then, but you didn't really have real sales ops. You didn't have rev ops. It was before people started realizing the importance of functions or technology dedicated to doing this. So for me, it was around solving my own pain points in order to make my sales and marketing team more efficient. And then from there, just deciding, hey, maybe I should start a company around helping others do the same thing. So that was the initial light bulb moment in Genesis for starting the company.
Yeah, and I remember, people were trying to use Salesforce as their, it's almost like a big file cabinet of information, but they were trying to use it as what they call now like a sales acceleration platform where they could set it up in a way to really maximize all that data. But you took a different approach, though. You were like, you have all these different systems, and it's built on Salesforce. But what was it actually solving?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, to your point, Salesforce is a great relational database, a system of record, as they like to think. But then there are so many different use cases for folks around how they want to use that information and the workflows and how they set up their go-to-market motions. And I think one of the things Salesforce did do, or pretty early on, was build this ecosystem, right? They realized they couldn't solve every single problem out there. And so they built this partner ecosystem to allow other companies like LeanData to come in and tailor and customize their experiences for their customers. And so that's why we early on identified certain areas where certain go-to-market motions that folks were struggling with, in which we could offer a more tailored, customized, but also most prepackaged way of leveraging those workflows. So for us, an early one, and so I started with my own pain points around how I was managing my sales and marketing systems. Once we got our first kind of 20 customers, we started realizing that our customers had similar pain points. And this was, again, 10 years ago, really where they started really glomming onto the motion of moving from leads to accounts. So ABM was really starting to take off. And we started realizing that you needed new matching technology, lead to account matching. We were the pioneers in that space, and new workflows around how do you manage that transition. And so that's why we decided, hey, a lot of that data was coming into the CRM, and we were going to help folks make that transition to ABM. And that really was the initial product market fit with some of our early customers around helping them map towards that journey and adopt that motion around ABM. Primarily technology companies who were fast growing were the ones who were really pushing the envelope around that.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, back in the day, because obviously we've been around for a long time, and it was very confusing because you've got all this marketing activity, and even above that, you've got the brand building activity, and then people find out about you, and that data goes into the system, and then you sort of have the sales rep who's sitting there going, how do I even make sense of all this data and make sure that I'm really leveraging it in a way that helps me to make more sales? And so you came in and tried to kind of sort that out for people to make it more streamlined.
Exactly. So I think the easiest way, per your point, David, the first easy point to solve was the systems were originally set around like single individual, right? So a
Yeah.
lead comes in and you follow up with them and you hopefully close the sale. The ABM movement was really around understanding that you're selling to companies in B2B. And so you need to have the picture of everyone at the company, right? So if you're selling to someone who it's all the interactions, there's multiple people involved, how do I make sure that everything is aligned so that the sales rep has a single view of what's going on? And that's why the technology that we pioneered back then, lead to account matching, was so disruptive or helpful. Was the sense that I could tell you, hey, these are the 10 people at the company that are actually engaged with you and that are of interest, right? So you don't become single threaded around those type of things. Per your point of what we're seeing that, so that worked really well for the last kind of 10 years, is everyone was like, okay, well, I need to think about accounts. Now, what's happened is as bigger companies have adopted this, bigger companies don't just sell to one account. They do sell to like one enterprise. People have multiple SKUs, they have multiple product lines, they have multiple geos. And so when you're selling from like, let's say like a Siemens is selling to like a Amazon, there are many things going on. It's overwhelming. There's too many people involved on each side, both on the sales rep side and the people side. And so that's why Forrester or the old Series Decisions are really pushing this thing around. Hey, the account is almost too big. We need to think about things in terms of opportunities or buying groups, right? What it is a set of folks on the Siemens side are selling to a set of folks that can make a decision around whatever product we're selling. And so this is just the next natural evolution in my mind. People are not still using leads, they're still using accounts, but they're realizing for certain contexts they really need to understand the specific buying groups. And so this is kind of where the map you were referring to, David, is kind of our technology landscape map for companies that are really helping companies move to buying groups. And we're seeing this really amongst larger enterprises, sophisticated enterprises around B2B. And the funny part is this is how good salespeople have always sold. Like a good salesperson has always been like, well, there's multiple people involved. I need to understand account mapping. I need to understand what's going on. I think it's now that the technology and the processes are catching up to the point that we can actually deliver those buying groups to the sales reps so that they can naturally see everything that's going on and be more effective in their sales, and hopefully do it at a bigger and broader scale. So.
Wow. Okay. So my head is spinning a little bit because if you think about an enterprise sales motion, especially, I mean, and this is why these guys make the big bucks. The enterprise sales guy and gals. They're making tons of money because it's so complicated. You can't just think of it as, okay, Siemens and Amazon. There's partners involved. There could be resellers. There could be, multiple geos. Now everything's just distributed. You don't know how teams really work together. And taking it back to in the old days, right?
Yep.
If you're a salesperson, you get your list of target accounts, at the beginning of the year or the beginning of the quarter, and you go, okay, I sit down with my manager. How am I going to break into, I only have 10, 20, 30 accounts. And how am I going to get in my foot in the door? And even when I do have my foot in the door, how do I understand the account landscape and who's all involved? Right. So as you think about that and you're designing the system, how do you keep from your brain not just exploding and thinking about all that complexity?
Yeah, and this is where the technology has kind of matured and allowed it. So I think there's more signals than ever before. I
Yeah.
think that's part of the thesis. Like you said, there's intent signals, there's leads, content syndication, there's like events, everything. There's so many signals coming at you. And I think one of it is just filtering and segmenting to determine which of those signals actually matter, right? And at the individual level, right? So it's in some respects, you look at the signals, you look at the individuals, and for any given opportunities, there's maybe, I don't know, 20 individuals that really matter, right? Maybe some of them you don't or haven't interacted with well, but there are maybe some signals in there that are worthwhile. So it's filtering down, figuring out the individuals, making sure that your sales team has visibility into what's going on there. And then once they have that information, then you can start automating and figuring out the workflow of what you do next. The example I love is kind of like, just because someone comes to your website and does a demo request, that may not be the event, that may be they're just fishing for information. information. That may not be the person that you need to follow up with, but maybe that's giving you a signal there's something going on in that account, and maybe their boss's boss, that's the person you need to go get. They may not come to your website, but maybe they'll go to an event or something of that sort. It's just putting that whole picture together. Like I said, the best sales reps do this, but to do it at scale, it helps to filter through the technology. And with all the signals that we have today, and with AI and all this other stuff, we can make this journey a lot better for both the sales rep, but also for the customer. Because ultimately, if the sales rep misses signals, that delivers a poor customer experience, which is just a waste for everyone. So
Yeah, I've seen so many. I'm just thinking of so many different examples because if you think about the great enterprise salespeople that you've interacted with, they were doing this, million years ago, and we're talking about B2B, right?
yes.
B2C is completely different, but
Oh,
I think most of the people that listen to this are in B2B. So the great enterprise sales reps, they had that natural ability to like multi-thread and understand the industry landscape and how everything works and be able to talk to the right people. The only thing is, you've got like a bell curve of great sales reps at your company, and they were only the 10% over here. They were like the A players, and how do you replicate that so that you can get more people selling bigger deals and being more successful? And so what you're saying is you're trying to figure out, how do I give that ability to other people on the sales team so that they can actually do that from a systemic perspective.
that's exactly right. And then even for the great salespeople, we want to do it earlier for them, right?
Yeah.
How do we give them the signals earlier before they have to invest, and so that you can get the shorter deal cycles or higher ASPs or higher justification. But it's leveraging the technology and data, and this is ultimately per your starting point of my origin story of why we started. This is the ultimate fulfilling of that, right? How do we make the sales and marketing team really, really efficient through data and processes? And in my mind, that's why I'm excited about buying groups, is it ultimately, this is where it all comes together, right? The right signals, the right plays, the right people on each side really ultimately delivers that great experience.
It's more of a science. And so when you think about, the other example is SDRs. You always, they're more and more, they're getting more efficient.
Yeah.
But again, 10 years ago when you first started the company, most of their day was just simply churning through these reams of information and trying to find the right person and at the right company at the right time. And they were sometimes they would set up the appointment for the enterprise salesperson, and then he or she would get on the phone, and it's like it's a delivery driver at Amazon.
Right.
It's not
Right.
the head of
Right.
procurement or whatever they were trying to target, right? So it's like, where do the SDRs fit in?
Yeah, I think the SDR roles does become more strategic. I think the one thing to get away from is not just any single person at a company. In the world of buying groups, they have to get the right person, and that may be multiple meetings. And so for ourselves, we compensate the SDRs for multiple meetings at a company, as long as we're kind of building out that picture and that account map. Because sometimes you have the second lead syndrome, where they set up the first meeting, the second lead comes in, they'll just toss it, right? Well, that second lead maybe actually be extremely valuable. It might actually be the right person instead of the delivery driver, as you mentioned, right? And so I think there's change in compensation, and they should be more that partner with the enterprise AE and helping them understand the organization, get to the right person, and that you may have to take multiple cracks at it in order to get it right.
Yeah, and one thing, you came from an operations perspective, and it seems like, and I've been out of the business for a while, but working with companies, we leave a lot of decision making processes to the SDRs, to
Yeah.
you guys figure it out. Like, and that could be somebody just right out of college who's never sold anything before, and they're trying to figure out who's who and where to go after. And it seems like there's more of a push to help them to be able to identify the right people at the right accounts to then work with the enterprise reps to talk to.
Yeah, I think so. I think the more we can enable them, the better. But I do think there's a cautionary tale thinking that we can completely automate their jobs. There's a human being there on purpose, especially in the age of AI, and we do want them to apply intelligence and not just push buttons, right? If they're just pushing buttons, we completely automate it. But there's an intelligence to think through, hey, all these things are happening, the patterns. What else do I need to get? What else is missing? And so I do think, even though they're early in their careers, ultimately a lot of them do want to become that great enterprise AE, right? And it's a great learning point to be like, how do I think through the strategy of doing this? Technology is great, data is great, but there's still a strategy that's involved so that we can be training the next generation of great enterprise AEs.
Yeah, and it's interesting because from a business perspective, because you right when you get off this call as the CEO, you have to go put on a different hat and start doing 500 other things. I'm sure from your perspective, it's like, hey, if I could just hire AI SDRs, I can save a lot of money, and they're doing the same thing as the human people, and they never call in sick, and they never, complain about anything. That's tempting for people. And literally right now, you drive down the 101 between San Francisco and Sunnyvale or where you are, and you see all these signs. Fire your humans, get
Right.
rid of your SDRs and buy this AI SDR. But what you're saying is you still need that human intervention, to be able to really do it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's a place of that. We can automate as much as we want, but then even if we do, it's a little bit of a game of prisoner's dilemma, right? Basically, if everyone automates, and that does no longer become differentiation. Ultimately, sales and marketing is about standing out, and you're going
Yeah.
to need someone to actually stand out. If it becomes so easy to automate it, then it's like everything. We can barely check our email. We can't check our phones, right? You constantly need to find a way to actually break through and make that connection.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just to shift gears a little bit, I was thinking that I think it was a guy from Lean Data. I was speaking on a panel at your Lean Data conference, which is the RevOps, RevStars,
Yep.
OpStars. I
Upstairs.
was gonna
Yep.
get it. I almost got it. OpStars, which is a really, really interesting way to gather the community and market the company, really. And so that made me think about that because on our panel we were talking about what is the role of the SDR, and he had some great advice on compensation and different things. So if anybody is interested in that, it's probably on our website somewhere. It was a great panel. It was a great conference. What was your thought process with starting the OpStars movement, really, and then making this conference that's adjacent to Salesforce conference in San Francisco?
Yeah, so I think it's all about just kind of fostering that human connection. And so for us, Dreamforce was a big conference for us, but we were a smaller startup and we just didn't have the funds to really go big at Dreamforce. It's a very costly thing. And so we were looking for venues in order to meet our prospect and our customers, and allow that interaction. And so we started off like many things out of necessity of being like, I can't afford a booth, but hey, we can rent this restaurant out for during Dreamforce, but that's still pretty costly. Maybe we'll share it with some partners. So us and a couple of partners rented out a restaurant. Was going to give a venue to have meetings and good food, and then we decided, to my marketing team's credit, that we put on some content around there. And the key genesis for the OpStars was really like content from practitioners to practitioner. Now it's beyond ops; it's sales and marketing folks attend as well because it's a broad thing. But we just wanted real like hands-on practitioner content. The feedback we got from that first conference was basically that they loved the venue and they actually really liked the content. They really thought it was speaking to them, and so that turned in from, hey, meeting space into its own little conference that we've been holding for 10 years now. It became a de facto area to bring the ops professionals together. But still, for the folks there, it's also a oasis, a refuge for folks who are within Dreamforce to come together and just meet. And ultimately, towards our discussion around kind of the AI SDR thing, while AI is taking off, in-person meetings and that face-to-face connections is more important than ever. So both things are kind of happening post-pandemic at the same time. And so I think, if you can have those opportunities to make that human connection, that's where you can stand out. So we've been doing it for think we're going on our 10th one now, and it's been great because it really allows us to, again, bring those connections together. And for us, it's also where a lot of magic happens is if you can put a customer in touch with the prospect, that's where they can really, that kind of virality or word of mouth can really bear a lot of fruit. Because as much as we tell people how great our products and what we do, it means so much more when they hear it from one of their peers or someone they respect or a customer. So
Yeah, they don't believe you anymore. They want to talk to somebody who's actually done it.
because then
Um,
maybe you're talking to an AI chatbot, right? So
right. Are you even a real person? But that's what's great about it. It's also it's free
yep.
for the consumers, that go to the conference, and so it's economically, doable for somebody who maybe just spent a lot of money to fly all the way out there, and they're at the Dreamforce conference, and if you're in ops, if you're in sales, if you're in marketing, this is a great opportunity to come and interact with the community and meet the team at LeanData, and it's just a great conference. And I think it provides you with like a touchstone, for each year. So you sit down and you go, okay, what are we going to do as far as marketing this year? And it's like, okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you can kind of build up to the OpStars conference, and so everything's kind of like almost like a wave to fill up that room and meet people and make a lot of great connections. Do you look at it that way?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing I would also emphasize is it's purposely not just a Lean Data conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think partners have been with us the entire time, and we always, every year, like to work with key partners around that, and we share that event space and everything with the partners, and want to make sure that they have a great ROI. That was from day one when we first rented out the restaurant, and it continues to this day that we want to, and especially new up and coming companies too. We realize those are the ones who may not be able to get the big booth at Dreamforce, and giving them a venue to share the new ideas of what's changing around data and processes is core and is part of the mission of that conference. So that's always been endearing to us. Actually, we at Lean Data do have actually also a booth at Dreamforce, and so we do both
Okay.
venues.
Yeah.
We have gotten to a size where we can. That is important, and that sometimes the booth at Dreamforce draws folks that had never heard of us, or are in industries that we don't really serve. So that's a different audience, but the folks that do know of us in the community and those type of things, and are more into the RevOps community, I think OpStars is a great way for them to hang out, but then just not meet with us, but also meet with our partners and other sponsors who may be up and coming on the latest technology.
Yeah, that's an amazing opportunity. And it also presents, it's kind of good job security for you, because as more tools come out and people enter into the sales tech space with all these solutions, I think that the consumers get like a deer in the headlights. It's like there's so much, information and innovation coming at ops professionals. I would think that they're just like, what do I do? Where do I start? And so as you think about when I saw that map, for
Yeah.
example, of logos, we have a map at Tenbound with like 3,000 sales technology companies. So how do you think about simplifying this and making it so, okay, I just need to go talk to LeanData and then I can figure all this out. I mean, how do you make this like almost easier for people to strategize how to enable the sales team with all these products?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit specialization and tailoring it to your customers. So I think Scott Brinker's market map is like
Oh,
1,000 now.
that's
You can't even read
ridiculous.
it.
Yeah.
You want to see the pictures. So for us, this one was very much focused on folks who are kind of pushing the next envelope around buying groups. So this
Okay.
map is specific around the buying group motion, which we think is going to be relevant for a lot of folks. But like I said, people are still going to do ABM, speed delete, and MQLs. And so that's why we felt we could add something into the literature and into the ecosystem was around. This is for folks we're really trying to do that more complex B2B motion. Here are the technology vendors that can work together to help you make that shift. And that's what this map is dedicated for. If you're a B2C company that's doing high volume and those type of things, this map's not for you, right? There's a different map. And I think that's where I think when the map gets really big, you then focus on, hey, even if this is a huge map, not every tech vendor is valuable, is relevant for me. It's really around what my go-to-market motion is, right? And I think that the nice thing is over the last 10 or 20 years, there has been innovation around go-to-market motions. I like to joke when Salesforce first came out, you had two flavors. You could round robin or have territories. Pick.
Yeah.
And go
I
now,
love
you
that.
can have much more complex go-to-market motions. And so it's up to each company to define what works best for them. And then within there's a set of technology vendors that can help you make that transition or make you more successful in that endeavor.
Yeah, I mean that's easier said than done, right? Because the what you want to do is you get some budget and you go buy all the shiny objects and you just start randomly plugging things in. It's like this is going to help. Hey, guilty as charged. I do it,
Yep.
myself. I hear about this thing that's going to do everything for me. I plug it in, and 3 months later, I'm not using it anymore. But I think to your point, it's like you got to step back and there could be multiple customer journeys at a company. Like, especially, it's simple with a startup, with a validated idea. You're like, okay, I have one hypothesis. We're going to map out the customer journey and then strategically plug in tools to help us execute on that. But when you're talking about enterprise, I
Yep.
mean, like you said, you've got multiple buyer groups in all these different places. You got to map that out and then go talk to Evan, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on. This is really, really interesting. I'm excited. I'm not sure when this is going to drop, but I'll definitely see you at the next OpStars conference and appreciate you coming on and giving us all this information. How do we get in touch with you if people want to continue the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably easiest way via LinkedIn or yeah, my email is pretty much out there as well. So those are probably I tend to be a little bit more old school. So no Instagram or TikTok or anything. The traditional channels work just as well.
That could be where they find you, but then we got to go back to it. And it's just always a pleasure working with you, Evan. I give you a hard time on LinkedIn sometimes because I know that we have the same jacket. I wear the same jacket to every conference, and then it shows up, and then but you got some new jackets. I noticed.
I did.
So
I
so
heard your feedback. I listened to feedback. I definitely, it was on my Christmas to-do list to get a new jacket. So I'll alternate between them this year.
and call me out. Like if you see me, wearing the same jacket, I'm
Yeah,
open to feedback too. So all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
no problem.